Hi, and welcome to this edition of B.E.P Talks. You know, I get to speak with fascinating people all the time, from different walks of life, with different areas of expertise, but always it is about their passions. Well, let me say their B.E.P, their beliefs, their experiences, their passions. Today's guest is extremely unique, really, for B.E.P Talks. And I was so fascinated to introduce him to you. So let's not wait any longer. Please welcome today's guest on B.E.P Talks, Mike Yaker. Hi, Mike. Want to join us? There you are. Thank you so much. Now, do you prefer to be called Michael?
No, Mike is
good.
I'm a Mike. Thank you.
Mike. Very good. One of my favorite man's names, Michael. So thanks so much for joining us. You know, when I kind of discovered you, if you will, we're always vetting, interesting guests. Well, you certainly fit that category. How do I describe you? You're kind of, and I mean this in the most respectful way, you're kind of a man of yesteryear with a very relevant message for today about how we really can move forward for tomorrow. So you're kind of a man for all seasons, I guess, a man for all eras. So your website is Axemaker, AXEMAKER.com. Listen, that title alone, creates tremendous curiosity. Who is Mike, the Axeman Yaker?
Well, Mike Yaker, I'm also known as Chief Fat Axe, the Speaking Tree. Yes.
Oh my gosh, how many wonderful titles must you have?
Yeah. And quite a few titles, quite a few names. I'm a carpenter by trade, a timber frame carpenter. I'm an artist, a writer, and a poet. And so most of my work evolves from working with wood, which then gets into you're working with trees, you're working with the body, the material of a tree. And in working with the wood, it really becomes a deep conversation, with the tools. I timber framing, you use a lot of hand tools, and my work evolved in such a way that it became, a relationship with the wood, and then it deepened from there into, visiting with trees and trying to understand them on a deeper level. When you spend so much time working with their material, I became called, the Japanese have an idea, the sharper the tool, the deeper the conversation. So, it's the working of the wood, becomes a communing on a deeper level. And I think that has led me to, my path. And my goal is it brought making things, working with your hands, which is at the core of my message, brought so much satisfaction and brings so much joy. And in this modern world, there's so much of that lacking for people. People seem a little bit disconnected from what it means to be human. And so I working with our hands, working with tools, it's embedded for all of us in our being. It's innate. So many people I get to meet through teaching, you just hand them a tool and they get it right away. It's natural for us to work with our hands. And so that's where my work
when
is
you
at.
put a tool in your hand, whatever it is, you feel your natural creative juices, I guess, begin to flow. And you realize the power that you have to create something. And in your world as a carpenter, you truly are communing with nature, are you not?
Yeah. I mean, it's working with the material. And humans, modern technology is great in so many ways, but it's also really severed us from what makes us human. And working with our hands is a great way. It's a medicine. For me, it's a medicine. There's no place I'm happier. There's no place where I feel more myself. And so I really view it as a form of a medicine for people to get out of their heads and get into their bodies. So, so much stress and anxiety, that's all in the head. It's not in the body.
When you said that, it made me think of the power of occupational therapy for people who sit down, whether they're in a nursing home or rehabbing from an injury, how using your hands, and it really, I guess, kind of ignites the whole body, the energy within the whole body. So as you said, we're living in a world today where everybody's just using their thumb, on devices. So we're going to have big, powerful thumbs, but the power to create beauty and function, art, and a sense of accomplishment with your hands, that really is something I haven't thought about for a while, or until I went to axemaker.com. It really makes so much sense. How did this begin for you?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of a slow evolution of just really enjoying working with my hands and enjoying the craft. As a carpenter, so much of when I first started out, I started as a trim carpenter, hanging doors, stairs, all that sort of stuff. And I really enjoyed that work, but it was a chop saw. The tools are really loud. The materials these days are kind of cheap, and so I really wanted to dive deeper into the craft and really get in that space where you can work with your hands, where it's quiet, and I've always kind of had this desire to work in a way that is accessible to all people. And so my schooling now, when I teach, it's all about, I teach a class called the 3-tool stool, and we use a T-auger, an axe, and a handsaw, and we make stools. And so that's really accessible to anyone. You don't need a shop full of tools. You don't need a dedicated space, and all these things we can do to have an opportunity to bring satisfaction into our own life. So much of the modern world, I think, tries to leave us unsatisfied so that if we buy a certain product, we can gain satisfaction. And I'm trying to give people an opportunity to create satisfaction for themselves.
I love that. So we want to have, like you go out and buy something, we want to have the stuff. But you're reminding us of the power that we have to actually create it and to have a whole different level of satisfaction. I'm starting to think of people who, go out hiking for the weekend, or canoeing, or camping, that somehow within us, we do have that desire to go back to nature. Like you said, it's in us.
Yeah, well, it's not only in us, we are nature. And so I think that's a really, important message underlying the work that I do, is that, is understanding that we are nature. Technology has separated us from nature, but we're not separate. So as we see the climate change and the devastation of the way that we treat the planet, we're really treating ourselves that way, because we are the planet, we are nature. And stepping into that, I think, is moving forward. That's the kind of healing this planet needs, and that's the kind of healing that people need. And I view my work from that perspective of a healing medicine, for the spirit. I think it says on my website, Craft Plant Spirit Medicine, and that's what this is. So it's a way for us all to find some medicine in a. I think most people agree the modern world is hectic, chaotic. It demands a lot from us, and so where can we find that peace within ourselves and these practices that can ground us into being?
Right, and I've always thought that when you have a skill, that you can create something with your hands, whether it's, tapestry, some sort of needlework or something. When you do that and give it as a gift, it is so appreciated by someone who's never done it, because they realize the love, the personal care that goes into creating that. So I imagine that you have gifted people with some of the most cherished things in their homes. I want to say something on your site. It does say craft, plant, spirit, medicine for the soul.
Yes. Yes, that's what we're talking about here, medicine for the soul.
As deep as it could be. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
starting to think we should call you the axe doctor.
The
Not
axe.
just the maker, the doctor, the axe doctor. I love that. Now, you have a school, and I know that you teach people how to chop wood, make stuff, and to know the tree. That, as you said, you really become connected. And it's not that you're just kind of, I want to say this the right way, what I'm feeling, like using the tree for your own benefit. You really are sharing what you can do together, what the tree can do for you, what you can do for the tree. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, humans in general can understand a more reciprocal relationship with nature than everything is just there for us and for its taking. And so, knowing the tree, there's a little bit of play on that, no tree, because we don't use trees anymore, and that's partially why they burn up, because we build with concrete and steel. We just don't have a reciprocal relationship with nature, like we did way back.
that's very interesting. In other words, they are there to be used. They are there to become part of, not just to burn up, as you say. That's so true. My gosh, Mike,
Yeah, there are elders. There are elders on this planet. There's wisdom. They've been here for 300 million years. We've only been here for 1 million years. So understanding that, that deeper level of wisdom that's on this planet is part of what you can access once you start to work with the material on, especially with hand tools on its level. Not that I don't use power tools, I have, and I continue to use them, but that's kind of overbearing the wood. It's not much of a conversation compared to when you're using a plane or an axe. And if you really get a lot of feedback from the tree, you learn a lot when you work in that way. It's just a deeper level of connection.
yeah. So some people might look at it and say, oh, you're destroying a tree. You're using it up. That's what it's there for. And in converting it from, let's say, a vertical tree to something horizontal, you're actually extending its life, are you not?
Yeah. I mean, trees have a life cycle, and when they're old enough and they're mature enough, you are extending their life, and exposing the beauty of what's inside that tree beyond what it shared during its life with the oxygen and being out there. Wooden furniture, wooden tables, the grain sometimes, and just, yeah, for sure.
Listen, Mike, I knew this was going to be an interesting conversation, but we've actually taken it to a whole different, I don't want to say level, I want to say depth, because my perspective was not a half hour ago what it is right now, to be honest with you. So thank you for that. Now, I know that you speak, you have a school, you teach people, but you're also beginning, and I applaud you for this, becoming a public speaker, because you have a very important message to share, as we're hearing right now on B.E.P Talks. Can you share with us now a little bit about when you're speaking with an audience, as if we're your audience? Could you give us a little insight into that?
Yeah, I can. I have my speech right here. It's a short speech. I'll go ahead and give it. It's the first time I'm giving it. But it's a really important message, for people. And I feel like if it gets to the right people, it can really be beneficial to them, because I think there's a lot of people searching for something. So I'll get.
Yeah. And you know what, Mike, excuse me for talking over you. If it gets to one person, and what I always believe is that if you change the life of one person, you really have changed the world, because you can create that ripple effect, and that's how, and so on and so on and so on, and that the energy keeps going and flowing, and in your case, growing with your friends, the trees. So I'm going to introduce you now. very first time giving a portion of his keynote. I'm honored that you're doing that on B.E.P Talks. So with no further ado, here is Mike, the Axeman, badass, chief, I'm giving you chief bad axe Yaker. So take it away, Mike.
All right, thank you. So I have a scar at the base of my left wrist here, because when I was 14 years old, I was at summer camp and I was making a stick for roasting hot dogs and marshmallows. But there was a branch on my stick, and I had my knife in my left hand, but I moved it into my right hand, and I was holding the stick and the knife in my right hand, and I reached up to break the branch off, but I wasn't paying attention to the trajectory of my hand and the knife that was there. And so I still cringe thinking about the knife going into the base of my wrist. And so the power and value of attention. Never before have we had the technological tools to attract and distract our attention like we do with 24/7 access to social media on our phones. Yogis, those who practice meditation and mindfulness, know that where attention goes, energy flows. Modern new understandings in neuroplasticity tell us that neurons that fire together wire together, literally shaping our thoughts and our habits. So phones are literally rewiring our brains, and the results are catastrophic. Human attention span is rapidly decreasing, while mental health issues such as anxiety and depression are rapidly increasing. So my name is Michael Yaker. I am an artist, a writer, a poet, and a timber frame carpenter. And timber framing is an ancient carpentry practice where heavy timbers, posts, and beams are joined with wooden joinery connections and pegged with dowels, or we call them trunnels, pegs. Trunnel stands for tree nails. Some of the oldest structures in the world, Japanese temples and Norwegian stave churches, are built this way. And in order for a craftsman or craftsperson, any craftsperson to achieve competency or mastery in their work, they have to have sustained, focused attention. So we're going to take a little further look at the modern forces that have the power to distract us and the potential consequences of not paying attention before we get into some of the alternative practices we can pursue to reclaim our attention and strengthen our ability to focus. We all know that social media is big business. Facebook ad revenue is expected to be $170 billion in the year 2024, this year. Influencers who really add nothing of value to our economy are being paid $21 billion, up from just 1.7 in 2016. And they're being paid for their ability to attract our attention with their good looks and their style. So our attention has been hijacked. Our attention has been commodified. Our attention is for sale to the highest bidder. And we're often left feeling anxious and depressed because we don't measure up to these images that the influencers bring to us. And social media is designed to keep us scrolling in mindless consumption. And although watching short videos can be fun in the moment, its effects are short term and minimal, as opposed to the beneficial impacts of doing well in school or with work and maintaining healthy relationship with others. Attention is the essential condition of the mind. Attention is finite. Attention is rare. Attention is more valuable than gold. Attention is so familiar to us that it is embedded in our language, in the way that we speak. And maybe we've forgotten its value. Lend me your ear. Pay me no mind. Spend your time wisely. These sayings are an inherent acknowledgement of the power and value of attention. And when we are distracted our attention robbed by others, it robs us of the opportunity to achieve purpose and meaning of our own choosing in life. It takes away our ability to be aware and to reason well, which are core aspects of being human. A culture that settles for numb distraction cannot shape its own future. Deep thinking, problem solving, and perception, the building blocks of wisdom, require sustained, focused attention. Any human endeavor requires sustained, focused attention to bring through to fruition. So there is another way. The power and wisdom in our hands. We can reclaim our attention by reconnecting to the work of our hands. We can bring well-being into our life, as well as meaning, purpose, satisfaction, and joy. Human intelligence is rooted in the work of our hands. Human intelligence has evolved and developed in relationship to the work of our hands. The work of our hands is what separates and elevates humans from all other living beings and intelligences on this planet. And so working with our hands does wonders for the brain. It allows it to relax, free from worry. And this is the power of attention that we give away when we spend our time with our screens and on our devices, rather than the world around us. Let me ask you, do I still have your attention? Who here could not use some relax, free from worry time in their life? I think we can all agree that that's a good thing. And so the work of our hands grounds us into our bodies. It improves our cognitive function and brings us into the present moment, a state of mindfulness, the benefits which are widely recognized to improve immunity, blood pressure, heart rate, awareness, clarity of thought, and perception. The benefits of working with our hands kind of goes on and on. It fosters creativity, it brings us a sense of accomplishment, and it brings meaning and purpose into our lives. And manual tasks are good for us, and they reward us with the release of feel-good endorphins, which reduce stress and anxiety. So working with our hands is a great way to improve neuroplasticity, and it works on our skills of concentration. Heightened states of engagement strengthen our concentration, and like a muscle, it grows, and we can apply that to all parts of our lives. The hand to brain connection is a crucial aspect of being human and creates positive feedback loops in neural pathways that can really help us to grow. This is why it's so important for children to learn manual skills and develop their fine motor skills, because it's really good for the brain. And finally, working with our hands is a doorway, a portal to that mystical state of flow, that heightened state of being, where concentration, purpose, awareness, and action all flow as one in a sense of well-being. and we lose all sense of time, and the outside world fades away as we become completely immersed in the present moment and experience deep feelings of connectedness. And so that is what I want for you. That's what I want people to be able to experience. I think it's time to put down our phones and pick up the work of our hands. Technological progress has done wonders for the material well-being of man, but at a great cost to the natural world and the human spirit. And in many ways, the material comforts of the modern world have, in a very short period of time, have severed humans from that which makes us humans. And so there is great joy in making, there is great joy in building and working with our hands. The power of transformation, the power to restore right relationship, the power to reclaim our attention is in our hands. Thank you.
Mike, you truly are a poet, because even in your words, I feel that the beauty of how you message. And you use the word wisdom, saying, like, that the elders, the trees are the elders on the planet, that they've been here for so long. But boy, you are a man of great wisdom and also great experience. I want to just highlight a couple of things you said. Is that, first of all, I don't believe there are any accidents or coincidences in life. So at the age of 14, when you had that injury to your wrist, that was kind of like maybe a wake-up call for you. You were already trying to use your hands, but what you said came out of that was realizing the need and the power of paying attention.
Yeah.
And, yes. And we do live in a world where, even just in sharing a conversation with someone, you're not sure that anybody's even still listening to you. They might be hearing you, but they're not listening to you. And you also mentioned that, and I think that listening is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to each other.
Yes.
You matter, and what you think and what you feel and what you say matters to me. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it, but I listened, I heard it, and I respect it. And that was, I loved that you brought that into there. You also spoke about the consequences of distraction, which of course led to that wrist injury at the age of 14, which is there to remind you all the time, right?
Yeah.
You
Yes.
see it every day. You are reminded of that moment every day. Yes, our attention is for sale, and we've allowed ourselves to be bought, I guess, is really what that comes down to.
Yeah. And pretty powerful forces are arrayed against us. I mean, that phone, that technology just came out and nobody really understood its power, and it was just released. And boy, I mean, you can really see its effects everywhere in terms of people just not really having their attention span and having the intelligence and knowing how to use a map because the phone tells you where to go. It wasn't that long ago we didn't have these phones. So we really live at a time where those of us who are old enough to remember before phones, just how quickly some of the things have really kind of degraded and devolved.
Yes, in a very, very, in a blink of an eye, relatively
Yeah.
speaking, to history. You said something that is really so obvious, but sometimes until you hear someone say it the way you said it, you just don't even think about it. But that it is our hands as human beings that separate us from the entire rest of the animal kingdom. That this is where our greatest strengths are, our intelligence, our ability to be the prime animal in this world. It's so obvious when you said it.
Yeah. Yes. And
yes.
And I think one of the switches we have to make moving forward is, instead of using our hands to dominate nature, I think we need to use our hands to heal nature, to be more a part of it, and to care for the planet instead of to dominate over it. And so our hands play a great role in that way, but we need to shift our attitude towards the planet that we live on and towards ourselves.
Yes, if we're disrespecting it, we are disrespecting, in essence, ourselves and future generations. Like, what are we going to leave for them?
Yeah.
I shudder sometimes to think, you know, generations down the road. Going back to what you said, like, it wasn't so long ago we didn't have phones at all, let alone that everybody walks around with a computer in their hand and that children take it to school and everything else. What's going to happen, you know, 5, 10 generations from now? I'm kind of glad I'm not going to be here to see it, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, but things can turn around, and that's why the thing I really like about this message is that it's a really simple step that people can just take to pick up some, and it does, you know, pick up something with their hands and start working again. You know, it doesn't require a lot of investment, and it's a pivot. You know, we live in a world where things are crazy and everybody's searching for deep answers. I myself have been there trying to, you know, figure out things, and some of the things we're not going to be able to figure out, but we can kind of point ourselves in a little bit of a different direction if we start engaging with our hands and working, whether it be in the garden. There's so many different ways. I'm being a woodworker. You know, my message is related to working with the hands and carving and whittling and so many things. But I mean, cooking a good meal and cutting up your, you know, spending time that way. That's where working in the garden. There's so many different ways that we can work with our hands. And it really, the one line in this, you know, relax, free from worry. When we work with our hands and we become immersed in the work of our hands, it gives the brain a rest. It gives the brain a chance to relax, free from worry. And I think the modern world, we all need that. We all need it, you know.
I could not agree with you more. So you said human intelligence is rooted in the use of our hands. Again, which separates us from the animals, which gives us intelligence that they don't have. And then you wonder sometimes, I don't know, maybe there's some, I have a dog that I absolutely love. And I think, wow, she is so much better than so many people I know because of the simplicity with which she lives her life. And yet seems to have such great joy and is able to give so much joy to everybody else that even crosses path. So it's going back to basics, going back to, yeah. You said it. There were 2 words that you said, big business.
Yeah. And I think it's also a shift from, you know, the material world to the spiritual world. You know, building up our spirit, you know, and focusing more on spirit and less on the material, because the material can come and go in life, whereas, you know, your spirit is what carries you through the hard times and is there for you when in difficult times. So you know, that's a shift that this can kind of lead to. Also working with your hands can lead to that sort of shift.
We should start to try to fine tune that, because that is what we will rely on when we need it the most. So I could talk to you forever because you have so many messages that are so worth sharing, worth hearing. And I can't imagine that there's anybody who hasn't related to so much of what you've said here, because especially for those of us who are old enough to remember a little bit before technology was so much more. And look at, we're here using technology now. Nothing wrong with technology. We're using technology now to share this message, to say that, like everything else I believe in life, it's about balance. It's about finding what makes you your best person, what creates the best balance in you, which helps you to create balance in those around you, your community, your life. And it can become very infectious. You know, I'm just thinking now, we had a bunch here at Thanksgiving, and for the children, we had all kinds of crafts, you know, to keep them busy and everything. So after dinner, and we were, you know, waiting before dessert and everything, we had about 30 people at our home. All of a sudden, the kids were kind of done, and sitting at the tables coloring and doing this were the adults. And you
Yeah.
know, adult coloring books became a very fad, trending thing
Hmm.
maybe 10 or so years ago. So I think there
Yep.
was a little bit of a message in that as well. Listen, I want to make sure that we let everybody know how to connect with you and your wisdom, and to go to this website. Simply click here. You must go to Mike's website and see the results of what he has created, the beauty that he has created. I can imagine what your house must look like. Like if you're living in a fully framed wooden house and everything. I kind of always wanted to live in a log cabin myself. So
Yeah.
yeah. So everybody, please connect with Mike. As you've heard here on B.E.P Talks, he has so much to say, so much to share, and it all makes good sense. So what I want to say is, everybody, use your head and start to use your hands. And you will probably find more peace, more joy, more satisfaction, which was another word you used a few times in your own life. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't need that in today's world? So, Mike, I thank you. I thank you so much. I knew this was going to be a very interesting conversation, and I was right. So I thank you for
Thank you,
sharing
Beth.
your wisdom.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. I am so glad that we've had you as a guest on B.E.P Talks. And for others who want to share their beliefs, their experiences, their passions, whatever it might be, please go to beptalks.com. Find out how you can become a guest on B.E.P Talks. We would love to hear your story. So would others. It's a story worth sharing, worth hearing. So thank you, everybody. Mike, thank you again. So as we always say at B.E.P Talks and at the Global Society of Empowered Women, until we talk again, may the best always be yet to come. Bye for now.